Hello, my name's Kristen, and this is my cat Bulldozer, as you will see, and we're going to demonstrate some of the things we tried during our clicker training sessions, which are definitely interesting, definitely a little more frustrating than the dog sessions. But still, I think overall, I've never clicker trained a cat before. It went, better than I expected, though definitely some frustrating times. So the first thing I did was just had some sessions with Bulldozer where I just acclimated him to the clicker, conditioned him to the clicker, making sure that I actually gave the treat immediately while I was clicking, not right after, at least in the beginning. Really with him, I found that little tiny bits of tuna tended to work the best. So again, I would just sit and do that for about 5 minutes at a time. Just doing little breaks in between, so he was curious as to what I was doing and making him try to come to me sometimes. But really the key in the beginning was right when he was getting the treat is that I was doing the clicker. Then, as we went on, I attempted at least have about a second or so time in between the clicker and giving him the treat. And he seemed to pick up fairly quickly that this was happening, because he would often look at my hand and you could tell he was, expecting to get a treat. So we did some conditioning with the clicker that way. And then in terms of free shaping a behavior, when I would sit with him, I would just kind of pick whatever he might be doing at the time that I wanted to, try to free shape without saying anything or putting a cue to it. Most recently, what I had tried was when he headbutts me, to click or treat then, just because I tend to like when they headbutt, and I was actually trying to see if I could get him to kind of headbutt me in the face. So we'll see if he does it at all now. I would kind of just start, when he would headbutt me anywhere, because he tends to like to headbutt, I would clicker and treat. And then there were a couple times where he got pretty into it, and as he would get closer to my face, I would only click or treat, when he would do that, get closer to my face, as opposed to, let's say, headbutt my leg. And now he's walking away. So that's at least what we attempted to free shape when we sat down some of the times. Definitely I've noticed it's frustrating. Now, I kind of interjected into that, sorry, because that was one of the extra things that we did. I've been actually trying to teach him to go through this obstacle course. So the fact that he jumped up there, I just wanted to make sure that I rewarded that. So conditioning to the clicker, free shaping, and then I guess we could kind of go in the backwards order of which I actually did it. One of my goals was to get him to jump up on the stool. Now, in the beginning, he didn't really know to jump up on the stool, so I put him up there a couple times, and when he was up there, I clicker treated with the tuna to get his interest. And now, as you can see, he actually jumps up on the stool quite a bit because he's used to getting the treat up there. So then after I had him jump up on the stool, my goal was to have him go from the stool, jump up, go to the stool, and then come through this little tunnel here, which has since kind of flattened a little bit because one of my dogs attempted to lay on it. But so what I did is we worked on this for a while first, just getting him used to going up and down on the stool. And then I actually used pieces of tuna to kind of guide him down and actually make him come through the tunnel. Bulldozer. And so it came out that way this time. So what I would do is I would just hold the pieces of tuna inside the tunnel, wait for him to grab it. Bulldozer. Bulldozer. So he's not really wanting to go all the way through, and that happened some of the times. It either seemed to be all or nothing. You know, I could either coax him through in consecutive little increments by having the treat in there, and each time I felt him take the treat and come further through to do the click or treat. And sometimes he would come all the way through, and sometimes not. As you saw, he would either back out or turn around and go out the other end. But this obviously was the easier thing, getting him jump up on the stool. Getting him to walk through this was a little more difficult, but he did have some successive and successful runs. So I want to see if you do it again. I know time's limited here, so I won't go on too much about this. But so obviously that was the easiest. This was a little more difficult. And then the goal really is once he would jump up here, I would try to successfully guide him down and through the tunnel. And the long-term goal is to get him to jump up on here, come down, and go through the tunnel. That was our little obstacle course. The other thing that we worked on is when he's anywhere else in the house, putting a come recall. Just gonna reward him as he does that. To his name and actually getting him to come. And actually now I can get that to work pretty good. I ended up using his name, Bulldozer, in a pretty high and obvious pitch sound. When I started doing it, I just made sure that I knew where he was coming from. I would go and kind of seek him out in the house and know that I was going to call him, so that as he was coming to me, I could clicker and treat. Now he's pretty good at it. He'll come from just about anywhere. I'm going to see if I can just get him to come even from over yonder. I'm actually going to put him over here. Bulldozer! Bulldozer! Good boy! Now, I don't know if you could... Oh, is he in the... I don't even think he's in the film. Oh, he's right there. When I call him, you could see his eyes, and I mean, obviously he didn't have to come far and for the sake of the video, but you know, he'll come barreling from places in the house now when I do that bulldozer. So it's actually kind of nice that he'll now come, you know, when I call him. The other things that we worked on were piano playing, which I'm not going to do in this video clip. I'll do in a separate one. And then getting him a little more accustomed to being held and handled and brushed and trim nails, because definitely in Florida it's nice to be able to flea brush him to look for fleas, and also to trim his nails because none of my animals are declawed. So when we started with that, I really just kind of, you know, made sure I had a treat in my hand and the clicker ready. And I really just kind of started by having him, you know, in my lap. I think he's lost a little bit of interest now, but he actually doesn't want to. I have a myriad of treats in my pocket. He doesn't want anything. But even just me being able to do this like this is huge, because he used to hate to be held. Grab a piece of shit. So this was the first thing we worked on. I would just hold him, you know, for a few seconds, click or treat, and then just let him go, make sure he didn't struggle in any way. Then once I had him used to this, and this was actually a little hard to do myself. When I was actually doing the training sessions for my logs, I had a helper who was helping me with the actual clicker treating and brushing, because it was hard to juggle everything. But I actually think he, for some reason, doesn't want treats now anymore. But what I would do is just kind of hold this against him and just get a few good passes in, and then clicker and treat. And as you can see, even this, I mean, this is huge, so much better than he used to. He used to kind of freak out at the cone, and now he doesn't. Do you want to treat? So then, in feeling daring, I decided I would try to cut nails, because none of my cats are declawed, and he usually is pretty bad for his nails cut. So I started by just taking his paw and just kind of touching his toes, and when he let me do that, I would click or treat. And he's over the treats for some reason. And so then I would do that, and when he got used to that, my goal then was just to cut a nail or two. Let's see if it's right. Go away. So then I would actually, you know, cut a nail, click or treat. Cut a nail, click or treat. And actually now, as you can see, this is huge, because I can actually just about, you know, get one whole paw at a time without him objecting, you know, too much at all. So this is definitely doable now, and I can handle him to flea comb him and to cut his nails. The other thing we worked on, I know we're kind of going in backwards order from the lessons and the weeks, but I was trying to get him to do a high five. Bulldozer likes to use his paws. So in addition to free shaping the headbutting, I was trying to free shape his paw touching my hand absolutely in any way. And then my goal was to eventually escalate the level of my hand to try to get him to look like he was doing a high five. So obviously, as I learned, you know, it's not, once cats are kind of done, it's not that easy to bring them back in and get them engaged in the session. But I'll just kind of show you for the sake of the video. Come here, dude. You know, usually he's pretty engaging with me, so what I would do is I would just put out my hand So hopefully you saw that in the video, but he put his little paw up, and he does it a lot. He'll just kind of randomly do stuff with his paw. So my goal was to get him to touch my hand, and actually that was a lot higher than we initially were able to start with. Good boy. So I would do that sometimes too. I would kind of get him riled up and get him going, and then the second his paw would touch my hand, I would click or treat. Initially, we just started with I would put my hand down, and whenever he kind of accidentally touched it or walked over it, I would click or treat. But then actually, as we worked on this more, I realized, well, hey, I could kind of get him going, and when he plays and even, in a play way touches my hand, I could click or treat and gradually, try to, hopefully my goal is to work him up to a pretty high five. So that was pretty much it. I definitely have to say it's encouraging to know that you can clicker train animals besides dogs. I definitely think in clicker training a cat, it takes a lot longer to make much smaller strides than you can with a dog, but it's definitely doable. Definitely just, again, it takes a lot longer time, shorter sessions. I think you need a little more patience too, because obviously the cats, for whatever reason, because they are cats, sometimes lose interest pretty quick. Like even now, I don't even know why he's not interested in eating, because he should be, starving, because he hasn't had his next meal yet. So that's that. So the only other behavior that's not here that we worked on was trying to get him to play the piano and walk on the piano, which will be in a different video. And that's it for right now. Thanks, Bulldozer.